Hi, this is Matt. This is Mental Model Monday, number 21. Today, I want to talk about a new mental model that I recently learned, just a few days ago, in fact. And what I really want to do is show you how I play with mental models and how I begin to poke them and see how they relate to other mental models and turn them on their heads and invert them. And so I'm gonna give you the basic model that I was given, and then I'm gonna just talk to you about how I started to think about it, invert it, and do different things with it. So the basic idea here is by a guy named Valentine Smith, who works at the Center for Applied Rationality, and the model he was presenting is that humanity is engaged in an epic battle. He called it the Ontology of the Holy War. And this battle involves two realms and us in the middle. So in the middle is us in reality. And then sort of below us is the realm that Valentine called the umbral. And this is the realm of sort of story and legend and gods. And Valentine essentially claimed that there's some deep primal part of us that resonates with stories and legends and gods, and that in fact, gods can be understood as sort of mimetic masks that travel through culture or mimetic archetypes that show up a lot in culture. So you might know somebody who just inhabits the spirit of Hercules, or a woman who inhabits the spirit of Athena, and that these are people accessing the umbral, accessing this primal connection to legend and story and myth. He then talked about another realm. This realm he called the astral. The astral is the realm of mathematical truth and of the nature of things, the nature of reality. And Val claimed that this area was actually a very dangerous area, the area of the astral. There's things like Gödel's incompleteness theorem that state that any system that can understand any system that can be understood cannot understand itself, and therefore you can never have a complete system of understanding. There's and that people who have stared into this have gone a little nuts trying to understand this thing, and that it seems like within this astral plane there are things that are indifferent to humanity in such a way that they will end up destroying us. So the sort of mathematical concept of the prisoner's dilemma just constantly screws humanity over because of the fact that we can't cooperate to do good things. Or um, the idea of um, evolution. Evolution would be up in this area, and it's just the idea of a fitness function that doesn't care about human values and is just trying to create survival and reproduction would be up in this area of the astral. Um, and so the basic ontology, as I understand it, was Val was saying that this area was sort of the area of viewing this from an umbral realm, viewing the astral through an umbral lens. You can understand this as sort of the eldritch gods of Lovecraft. These things that if you stared too long at them, they sort of made you go mad, and they were just so vast that they tended to trample on humanity, regardless of if they cared about humanity or not. So this was the basic mental model I was given. Um, and then I just decided to start playing with it. Um, so one common heuristic you can use for when you're given a mental model or a problem or anything is inversion. So what if the opposite were true? So Val said that we are on the side of the umbral and we are sort of trying this epic quest to defeat the astral, to conquer truth in such a way that it matches with human values and emotions and the stories we have about ourselves, all of which exist in the umbral. But what if the opposite were true and we actually wanted to take the side of the astral? Uh, and I argue that if you look at someone like Christopher Hitchens, this is what they would argue, is that we want to actually take the side of the astral against the umbral. So Christopher Hitchens um, sort of sees humanity. This is Stroth, Christopher Hitchens. This might not be actual Christopher Hitchens, but sees humanity as arising from um, out of this land of superstition, where we have things like the god of war. This notion to fight each other, to always combat, uh, Hitchens might say, comes from the umbral. And in fact, the astral creates things like uh, expected utility, and it makes us care about things that shows that we should care about things equally. That gets rid of scope sensitivity, that makes us sort of more enlightened beings in how we interact. And in fact, the great project of science can be seen as trying to pull away from the umbral, systematically replace the umbral by filling in the gods of the gaps with astral understanding, with the understanding of how things are, instead of trying to explain them away with myths and stories and legends. There's a phrase by a man named Eliezer Yudkowsky, which says that which can be destroyed by the truth should be. And this, one way of looking at this is seeing Eliezer as taking the side of the astral over the umbral. So there's another way to look at this. So the first thing I did was invert and say, how can I look at this in the opposite way, and what would it be like to look in the opposite way? And then there's also the theory of dialectics, which says that all understanding is about taking dichotomies and paradoxes and resolving them, and finding the unification of them. And so this made me think of people like um, Richard Feynman or Stephen Hawking. Uh, these are people who have a deep connection to the astral, deep connection to the truth. Um, but they also both seem to have a deep connection to the umbral. Feynman was an amazing storyteller. He liked to make legends about himself and bend the truth, and there was something about his access to this that let him be really creative with science as well. The umbral seems to being in touch with the umbral seems to give us some access to creativity that merely being having access to the astral does not. But Feynman and Hawking are also both great believers in the astral and believers in the truth. They might say that the danger is to humanity is not the astral, is not the umbral that we have to defeat, or the astral that we have to defeat, but the idea that there has to be a war in the first place, and that if we lose either of these things, if either of these things wins out, that we may in fact uh, we may in fact that may be the downfall of humanity, is the idea that there is war, and that the only way to save us may in fact be to realize that there is no war at all, and to stop trying to fight things. So then I was looking at sort of trying to understand some of the ambiguity. So sort of another thing you can do with a model when you get it is poke at the places where it's kind of ill-defined, and see if you can more clearly define what you're trying to understand. So I was trying to understand what exactly we mean here by umbral and astral. The land of myths and legends versus the land of truth is sort of a fuzzy definition. So the best definition I came up with for the umbral was that which can be understood but not explained. So it's very easy to understand the concept of God. Very, very easy to understand the concept of God, but very hard to explain God. In fact, impossible to explain God. The very definition of God is that is unexplainable. So the umbral is the realm of that which can be understood but not explained, uh, which may which may give you a hint as to why it's good for making intuitive leaps. Because you're sort of putting in things in ways that you can understand them. By contrast, the astral is that which can be explained but not understood. So if you think of something like quantum mechanics, you can explain this with a bunch of math, but actually truly grokking, truly understanding the astral or quantum mechanics, as Val was pointing out, kind of makes you go a little mad if you actually try to grasp it in an understanding, intuitive way. So the umbral is that which can be understood but not explained, and the astral is that which can be explained but not understood. Um, yeah, so that just shows you a little bit about how when you get a new mental model, you can begin to poke at it, play around with it. And the other thing, which I didn't get into too much, although I sort of mentioned it as I was going on, is you can combine it into with other models, like the model of the God of the Gaps, or the model of that which can be destroyed by the tree should be. You can see how it contrasts and compares with other mental models you have. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.